All right, welcome back again. Me, Isaac, Joe, Craig,
Hello.
What's going
listening
in?
in. Um, I just want to, before we get into the main topic, let's have Isaac. How about you tell us about that feat that
Oh,
totally solves half of our episode last week that we
there's
just found out
there's
about?
I just refound it. I think I'd actually read it once, but I was like, this doesn't apply to me because I'm not in any games that use firearms. There's a gunner feat in Tasha's that you ignore the loading property of firearms, and being within 5 feet of hostile creatures doesn't impose disadvantage on your ranged attack rolls. So there you go. And
Yeah, yeah.
it's a half feat too. You even get one to dexterity. So
You know what I feel like? I feel like I was justified. Now I feel even more justified in my
they
opinion that
knew they
they
knew the whole
knew!
time.
D&D knew the whole time. Wizards knew the whole time. You should be able to shoot within 5 feet, damn it. Oh, man. So, there we go. Half of last week's recording. Just listen to it to make yourself feel good about listening to it. But then listen to this and realize I wasted a bunch of time. Anyways.
That's not the ad you want to give for your podcast. I
Well, it's just we gained new information. When did you read that?
That's how good opinions are formed.
That's how good opinions are formed. I changed
That's
my opinion. Good job, Wizards.
I read
Shouldn't be a feat.
I read that about 5 minutes before I got on here because I was looking up something else related to what we're talking about today and found that sort of on the way.
I still think it shouldn't be a feat for firearms, but I'll take at least a consolation prize. Anyways,
It all works out.
On to the main topic of the day. Isaac, you're the host for the day. You pick the topic. Tell us what the topic is.
We're going to talk about character creation.
Hot diggity dang.
Yeah.
So to start, whenever you guys create a character, how do you start from a story perspective? Do you have any go-tos, or do you just do you start from a mechanical perspective? How do you start to build your character?
Joe, you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
You can go ahead and go.
I start
Or something.
typically when I think about making a character, I do not think about the story first. I think about how is this character going to work mechanically? One of two ways. How can I make this is a cool idea in my head. How can I achieve this idea? That's one way. And the second way is, man, I read this thing the other day and it sounds super broken. Can I make that work? Now, that only works until sometimes my character ideas change based on the stats that I get, especially for rolling stats,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, all right, guys, let's all get together and roll the stats. And I roll all my stats and I'm like, well, my stats are garbage, which means that original character idea does not function the way I wanted it to function. Therefore, last minute change. And I can whip something up pretty quick, usually based on those stats. Like I knew for our Friday campaign, I actually rolled pretty decent because he had like a weird stat creation thing.
Yeah.
But I rolled so decent that one of my stats is like a 5 because of the way he did it.
Yeah.
And then I have to like build around that instead of being fully what I wanted it to be, kind of thing, But honestly, that worked out really great. And sometimes the stats honestly change my opinion more than anything else. I need to see what stats I have before I like finalize a build,
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Joe?
For me, I start with like I have to visualize what my character looks like, so I start with the class or the race. Like that's what I start with. Figure out what race I'm going to play, and then I try to look up lore about the race and stuff like that to kind of come up with some sort of a backstory to start, and then I'll go from there with picking classes and things like that.
Okay. Yeah. Whenever I've only made 3 characters total.
Yeah.
So I mean, the first character I made it started off mechanical because I knew that Michael's campaigns had different rules about long and short rests. And I knew long rests were going to be hard to come by, so I was like, okay, I'll roll a warlock because they get stuff back on short rests.
Yeah.
It didn't really work out as I had planned.
Yeah.
Because then the short rests that we were taking were not like regular short rests.
Yeah.
So I would just be done for a day and then not have anything to do.
Yeah, his
Uh,
rules made that really hard for sure.
the second character I made it started from a much more story oriented thing, because I had an idea for a thing that I wanted to do. I was like, we need some sort of healer. So I was like, okay, I'll be a cleric. How does a cleric fit into this? And then I wrote out this thing about how I was basically had connections to some of the bad guys that were in the story, and I was like, okay, that's what I'll do for that. And then for the latest campaign, I actually started with a mechanical idea that I wanted to do, and then as I thought about it more, the story became more important to how I wanted to accomplish that.
Uh-huh.
So then it became a sort of a mixture of the two. But I think that, and so far this one has been very, very satisfying to play. I think that it'll get better as we go, as
Yeah.
more of my story is unlocked.
Unlocked.
But I think that if you can get that perfect balance, that's the most fun.
I think that the way that you think about making characters is almost entirely dependent on the people you play with. Like
Definitely.
I would say like my style of, how is this character going to work first before story has to do with the years and years of D&D campaigns that I did, where the story really didn't have an impact. So the story, in my mind, it's hard for me to put the story first. I'm trying to get better about that, but like I want like a character that does the most amount of damage, because I've played in so many campaigns where that is the thing that makes you a good character.
Yeah.
Not having a cool story. It's about like, can I deal the most damage per round possible on average?
Hey,
Like,
you want to know a good way to get better at that? Make your
What?
character a pacifist.
How's that going
dude,
for you?
how's that going for you, dog?
It's honestly like one of my favorite characters that I've played. I'm loving it.
That's a big story choice up front, and like building your character around that. I feel like that'd be easier to do if you weren't level 1.
Yeah, I think it will certainly get easier as you get more and more spells to choose from.
Yeah,
Things that you can
because
do.
it is just rough just doing guidance,
Dodge
guidance,
action.
Dodge action.
Oh,
thought about-
I can use reaction to hit him. Nah, I'm okay.
You should have just carried 2 shields.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
That'd
Yeah.
be cool.
feels like I
Double
war
shield.
caster. I don't need my hands.
That's right, dude. Does that work? Does that work?
No,
Can you
you're not
stack?
allowed to carry 2 shields.
Oh, bummer.
At least rules as written. You could.
I
Maybe
feel
talk
like
to Michael
you
about
homebrew
it.
that. Yeah, that's a good enough homebrew where like I never attack people. Can I carry 2 shields? Just 2 big tower shields that you hold in front of you at all times, with a little notch cut out of both of them so you can look out with your eyes. Close them
I'm
together.
my own phalanx position.
Yeah, exactly. Just I block everything, dude.
Whenever you're creating a character, have you ever had an idea for a character and you roll stats and you go, "My stats suck. I'm doing something else."
I've done that a lot.
Yeah, that's what.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what I just
Eric was
said,
saying.
yeah.
He said, yeah.
Yeah, I've had that happen plenty of times where I'm like, this character's gonna be sick. Here's how it's gonna work. It's gonna do this, and then that'll chain to this, and that'll chain to this, and that means I'll be able to do optimal damage. And I roll stats, and none of my stats are over like a 15, and I'm like, okay, new plan. I'm just a guy
In a
who's
potato.
yeah.
This guy's gonna die in round 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump off a cliff the first chance I have so I can get another character. Like,
I had
ahead.
a couple ideas for characters that I was like took into a stage that I actually like built them out on D&D Beyond and had the character ready, and I was like, but this is not going to be fun to play in combat. Like, and since that's also a part of the game, I feel like that's something you have to consider, and it was not. I didn't think it was going to be fun for me in combat, so I sort of abandoned it.
Oh, really? What was it? I want to hear this character idea that didn't work.
It was Arcane Archer. Like it's the way it reads, it looks fun, but you can only do it like twice per long rest. The actual thing that your ability is about, your subclass is about, and I was like, oh, man, that just doesn't. Otherwise, I'm just shooting arrows it's gonna.
You're just
boring.
a ranger. You're just a regular ranger. Yeah.
Well, it's a fighter subclass, but
oh, okay.
But I was like, because Arcane Archer, and I was like, cool. I'll have like this sort of innate semi casting ability. I'll be able to do this stuff, but you can only do 2 of those magical arrows. Like I think it's per long rest or per short rest, and I was like, man, that's like one fight, and you're just
You know what
back to action surge, plink,
You know-
plink, plink.
You know what that sounds like? That sounds like my wizard with a gun, but like bow instead of a gun.
It could be similar, yeah.
Is it like you're charging an arrow with a spell and shooting it?
No, there's like I can't remember how many. I think it's 8. However many schools of magic there are. There are that many arcane shots that you get to choose from,
Okay.
and you can only have like at level 3. I think you get to choose 2 of them, and you can use them. I think it's twice per. I can't rememif it's long rest or short rest, but you can use them twice for some kind of rest, and then you're just back to shooting regular arrows, just like a regular fighter. And I was like, I don't
That's
wanna
not
do
enough.
that.
That's not enough.
yeah.
It's not enough magic arrows to justify taking that class. And I
Yeah,
think that like
there's some cool things you could do with it, but I just didn't. I was like, I don't want to. Maybe someday I'll go back to that, but I didn't want to do that for a long campaign.
I'm going to plug a resource that I use every single time I make a character, and that is rpgbot.net.
Oh boy.
That guy is the best. He ranks everything. He talks about how stuff works. It's a fantastic resource for building a character, and it will get you out of situations like that. Because I've had plenty of times where I read something, I'm like, that sounds so sick. And like, I don't think about, I'm like, I immediately go, that sounds cool. Better look it up on RPGbot. Look it up, and I'm like, oh, this is why it falls short, and then I can steer away from it, Or if I have an idea, like an overarching concept, I want guy that throws axes that come back. I've talked about that before to you guys.
Yeah.
Like, how can I achieve this concept? I think that's how I've moved to making characters now. I have an idea of what I want to do, and then I look at all available resources and go, how can I make this work in D&D?
Yeah.
And if I can't make it work rules is written, I ask about homebrewing stuff.
Could I maybe do this thing that's potentially broken?
Not
maybe.
broken.
Let me look.
Remember, well, you don't remember. You didn't play 3.5. There was an amazing class in 3.5 called Spell Sword. Loved that class. It's not in 5e. There was a homebrew, and I did, and it was a little broken.
Is it like
looking back on it, it was broken.
Blade Singer, like a wizard subclass?
I think it was better than a Blade Singer. Blade Singer is like something.
If it was so good, then I'm sure that they nerfed it. But
wasn't it Sword Mage? Is what you played?
Sword Mage.
It sounds like Blade
Spell
Singer.
Sword.
It was dumb. His character. It was OP. It was
OP.
Dumb thing.
When I read it at first,
he'd have his sword and he could charge his sword with a chaos bolt and then hit somebody, and the chaos bolt would hit them, and he'd get sword damage. Not to mention, he was teleporting around to everyone everywhere at all times.
If you missed the attack, like if you said, I'm charging my sword with a fireball and I'm going to hit them, if you missed, you lost the spell.
Well, this is similar to the idea of the mage with a gun you were pitching.
Yeah. It's really similar to that. But like, I guess the trade-off is that, and also like, big AoE attacks didn't work. You could charge a fireball, but it only hit one person, like that homebrew that I did.
I see.
So yeah, it is extremely similar to the wizard with a gun. That's why I wanted to do it. I was like, man, I love the idea of charging a sword or an item with magic and then using that instead of just being a normal caster. Anything to just spice up. I just want to spice up the normal D&D. I've just played so much D&D that like regular combat, if I'm not trying to do something weird and interesting, is just like I hit them. Hey,
so
what's up?
You gotta go. Your challenge is to go through, find like the weakest subclass, and make it good somehow.
And make it good. You want me to do that? I'll try to prepare that for next week. Like, how can I make this subclass good? There's plenty of subclasses in 5e that are just like have a cool concept, but
a cool theme, but they're like they just fall way short.
Dude. Yeah. The original, the Beastmaster Ranger, the original one.
Yeah, when I first read it, I was like, "This would be so cool," and I kept on looking at it, and I was like, "Oh, your pet is totally worthless.
It's hot garbage.
It dies every time it comes out."
Yeah. Like, oh, I'm level 20. Here's my level 5 cat or whatever, and it gets one shot by, the level 19 goblins you're fighting or whatever.
Yeah,
it was an awful
updated one
subclass.
Is better.
If I
were to make a ranger, I would want to make a combination of the old and the new.
I feel like pet classes are like a really cool concept, but I feel like they're so hard to balance.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's either your pet is a monster and like you do nothing, in which case why are you here? Just give me your pet.
Yeah.
Or your pet does like nothing and you're like you do average damage, and then it's like, why is your pet here? It's just always dead.
I've seen interesting uses of like familiars and stuff like that, like taking a ranger and having an owl as a pet, or like a hawk or something that can do the swoop maneuver, fly by and give you advantage at ranged, for your sneak attack at ranged. That's like a neat, interesting use of that. But if anyone swings and hits your bird, it's dead.
Yeah.
He's got like
I also
HP.
don't like I hate it when a character, like for any mechanical stuff, is like, I do this thing that I always do every time because it's the best way, and anything else is a complete lack of efficiency. That gets boring to me.
Does that get boring?
Yeah, it's like, okay, my turn. Baby. Dude's gonna fly by and I'm gonna shoot. Okay, there's your turn. Oh, is it my turn again? Dude's gonna fly by and I'm gonna shoot. That's boring. That's why I think a lot of spellcasters are more interesting as well.
But how is that any more boring than, here's my guy, I have a sword, I'm a cool sword guy, I do cool sword tricks, and you walk up and you're like, I hit him with my sword. What? Oh, it's your turn again? I hit him with my sword. And
now I get that, but the other way, it also feels like it feels very like gaming the system, as opposed to hitting your sword is just what you do. Having your familiar do flyby is like, really? Is this what we're gonna do?
I mean, it works, right? Like,
this bird is annoying me so much that you're getting advantage when you attack me. Why?
I mean, I gotta say,
that bird out of the sky.
if I saw a hunter with a bow and I had a sword and I was like, crap, but I got these other people I'm fighting, and a bird came and like clawed my face, I'd probably be like, jeez, god damn it, and then bam, you get that shot.
You're eventually gonna be like, okay, bird,
get out of here, bird. But hey, that's just how combat works, baby. Read the rules, maneuvers in combat, rules,
that's why it gets boring. If it's the same thing like 5 times in a row and nothing changes, that feels boring to me. If that's your cup of tea, go for it.
But like my character in your campaign, what do I do every turn?
You punch guys.
That's right. I punch them, and it's the same every turn. I punch them. It doesn't matter if I like zhuzh it up. I'm still just punching them.
Yeah,
I do a cool flip,
but again,
and I punch them.
That feels more pure than my familiar flies by and distracts him while I shoot him. Like at some point, your dude's not going to be distracted.
That sounds more interesting to me. That sounds more interesting than just punching.
It sounds super interesting if you like pull that out of nowhere, and it's like, oh, what a clever use of things. But like after the 20th time, like, oh, is your familiar going to try to distract again while you shoot? I never would have seen that coming.
Hey, advantage.
It's really cool though, like the first few times when it's an interesting use of game mechanics, but doing the same use of game mechanics over and over it feels bad to me.
What do you think, Joe?
For me, man, the sword thing gets old. I'll admit it. Like you run up there and it's just like, I was a samurai for like 3 years, and don't get me wrong, I love the character. It's one of my favorite characters. It was a ton of fun, but at the end of the day, I was still like, okay, I swing. Swing again.
That's why I like spellcasters as well, like you were saying, Isaac, which is like, if you're a spellcaster, even though memes aside, cast and fireball, you do have more options. You have something to think about. In between the rounds, you're like, okay, well, if I cast this spell, it'll hit, it's the optimal damage, or I need to help someone with this spell, or, oh, if I cast this will be the clutch thing if they fail to save. Whereas like when you're a punchy guy or a slicey guy or a stabby guy or an arrow guy, you go, all right, it's your turn. What are you going to do? Stab him, punch him, slice him, kick him, and then the whole round goes by, and the only thing you got to think of is like, can I get a flank? And if not,
I will say that like
I'm gonna punch him.
I will say that while you're actually doing the combat, it doesn't feel as bad because you're like, if you're into it, you're like, I'm doing all that I can to help my party take care of business so where that none of my party dies. So it doesn't feel as bad when you're doing it in combat. But when I'm like preparing for combat, it feels boring. Like I bet I know what I'm gonna do.
I think that also like there is some stuff like you can. I don't know if this is a 5e rule, so you're the rules guy. Tumbling through people's squares, through enemy squares, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It feels like that sounds like something. Ooh, that's really cool. If I tumble through this guy's square, I can get a flank. Or if I tumble through this guy's square, it'll sound really cool. Oh, I'm gonna like do a roll under his feet and punch him in the kidneys or something. But like rules wise, it doesn't change anything that happened. It just added more complexity and gave you a chance to fail rolling between his legs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, I'm going to do this cool thing, DM. All right, so instead of just punching him, I'm going to run up and I'm going to do a flip over his head and then punch him in the back. And he goes, all right, roll an acrobatic check. You go, 1. And you just, oh, you're prone. That's it. That's the end. Oh, I got to stand up now. That's not graceful. That's not cool. And I wasted half an action.
I'd rather see like he gets an open reaction and he gets to clock you back. You failed. You failed the acrobatics, but that could lead to like you go through the legs and shoot up. You get an extra 2 points of damage or something. You get rewarded for doing.
There has to be a reward for like, because I wouldn't mind describing what I'm doing more often. Oh, I try to, and I've been trying to say like I do this thing, but like when we fought the pixies in your campaign, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to stomp on a pixie. But rules wise, it's not worth it to stomp on a pixie, even if it's like thematically cool.
I'll give you a reskin on stuff like that if you want to describe it that way.
Like I stomp a pixie. Okay, that does a D4. And if I go, I'm going to punch a pixie.
Like, if you want to reskin an attack, that's totally fine. I'll let you do that.
Oh, okay. Well, that changes it. I've had so many games where you're like, let me do this cool thing. And they're like, okay, well, that does nothing. And I've done that to people because I'm like, oh, I shield bash him and I want to crush him against the wall. And it's like, yeah, that sounds cool, but it's going to do significantly less than your regular attack. So why don't you just swing at him?
I think you could do that, or you just go with like, you hit them, it does some damage, and they're grappled
or pinned or something.
Yeah, if you just let me know, I want to. I want to step on him, but it's just a reskin of my regular attack. I'll be like, sure, go for it.
Yeah. There's
totally okay.
There's plenty of things that can make combat more exciting, but like, thinking about how cool something is in your head when you're making the character, and then how it's actually going to function are usually pretty disconnected.
Yeah,
it's definitely a lot more fun to create casters.
Yeah,
that too.
Your imagination can run a little bit more of like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, and it I will say what's really changed, like helped me even more love casters is playing the game where you're not just going for I'm gonna cast Fireball and that's it.
Fireball?
Like adding in your flavor and like casting spells to help party members to do stuff that isn't around damaging the enemy.
Yeah.
It's really fun to play that way.
Yeah, Victor was very fun in that way. In the heavy support role, it was a lot of fun.
That's I think that's person to person, because I've tried doing supporty stuff, like, but I don't get as much enjoyment out of like healing and helping my party members as I do just doing damage.
Well, there you go. That's what floats your boat.
Knowing that I'm killing them. Now, I don't want to murder people all the time. Sometimes you want to have
evidenced by the fact that you're like, don't go for them goblins or I'm leaving.
I'm leaving. Hey, listen, man. I thought that was a great story beat for my character. I was stern. I was like, listen, you can do whatever the hell you want, but I'm not helping you.
Yeah. I
felt bad after last night's session.
I felt bad. I was like, but then I thought about it. I was like, I don't think I could have given him any more chances to get away.
We talked about it.
There's a whole bunch of people coming. Are you moving?
Do we
Nope.
want to do we want a
Okay.
tangent here for a second? Me and Joe talked about it after the session because I went over to the house to watch some shows, and he was like, "Ah, I feel bad about this thing." I'm like, "Dude, Isaac gave him like 5 opportunities."
And the whole time I was trying to play it the way my character would do it, and I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, he would do this. I'm not helping. I was like, "Hi, this sucks. This hurts."
Yeah, I
He
was like,
did.
I told, because he shot a few of them. He got 9 shots at him, and I was like, and there are more on the way. And there's this 15-foot monster headed your way, too. Are you moving? Nope. I'm shooting 2 more. Okay.
I'm shooting him again,
Shoot 2
baby.
more. Now there's 13 shots coming at you. Oh, you're unconscious. All right.
Where was Hail of Thorns, dude?
I don't think any of them were standing within 5 feet of each other, but yeah, I went to look and see what spells
There
he
was one
had,
point
but
I
none of them
texted Eric because there was like 6 guys standing on top of each other,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was like, he needs to use Hail of Thorns, but I was like, but I'm not saying anything because he's got to learn to remember what he has.
Oh man, brutal. That's so brutal, dude.
It'll
Shot
help
me
in
in
the
the
long
back
run.
with
It'll
it.
just he'll be a better player. for
It'll be
that.
better.
We'll hope so.
Trial
we'll
by
find out.
fire, baby. Trial by fire, dude.
But anyway, now he gets to create a new character, which is
But
what we're
yeah,
talking about.
Which is what we're talking about. Has he said what he's
Uh,
gonna make? He said he was gonna make like a.
He's gone back and forth already, so I have no idea.
Okay, fantastic.
I'm excited to
We'll
see
find
what
out.
he's making. Like, I'm pumped.
He
He comes
his
up with
first
some
idea.
crazy stuff. So
He
I'm pumped to see it.
pitched this idea. He was like, "I'm gonna be a flying owl man who throws 2 javelins." And then in my head, I was like, "Yeah, but what do you do once you throw the 2 javelins?"
It's like your character idea. He needs like a blink back belt so he can
yeah.
just pop back up to him and he's just chunking him.
But he didn't say that. He was
he
gonna
was
throw
like,
him.
I throw him and then I fly in and pick him up, and I was like, okay, all right, and then we'll talk. And then I was like, but no, I'm not. There's no races
No
that
flying.
have a flying speed. It's too much extra work for me to balance around, and I don't want to do it because I got enough to do. So
No flying allowed.
no flying speed creatures. You
Every
want to
time we
cast
get in
fly? That's
combat.
fine. I can knock it off of you with knock your concentration out. But
All combats from now on indoors. And
Nope.
when they're not indoors,
Vonic, you're actually hunching in here. That's how low the shield is.
and even when it's not indoors and we're outside, it's under an awning. It's like
They got
You
this
guys
weird
get-
shade structure built, so you
Yeah.
just can't do anything.
you guys are getting ready to. You guys are walking up. You spot a gazebo filled with enemies. God,
They aren't
damn
coming
it.
out.
They
But
aren't
it's
coming
just
out.
Slightly too big to get a fireball in there.
Nice.
So next up,
All right. Yep.
ability score, determining ability scores. There's a few different ways to do it. I wanted to talk about what you guys like the best and which ways. So in Michael's campaign, we did this weird homebrew
Yes.
point buy thing.
It wasn't point by
Which-
though. It was dice roll, right?
It was random point buy, is what
Yeah,
it
it
was.
was
Because you
random
rolled
point
5
buy.
stats, and then whatever you had left, that was
Got
your 6th
subtracted.
stat. But it was
I thought-
all
okay,
based
okay.
on the point buy system. Like you can only have this many stats total.
I thought
So
it was like
it was random point buy is what it was.
you rolled and then you added up all your stats and subtracted it from the total, and then your last one was what was left over.
Right, but that total
Okay.
is the point buy.
So if you rolled
Uh,
really poopy on everything, like if you rolled a 5 on everything,
Yeah, then your last one would be, I mean, if you rolled
insane.
potentially over 20. I think
No,
no. He
but-
said if it was over 20 or under 1, you would just re-roll the whole thing. Is what he said.
That's no
So-
fun, dude.
Yeah, so you could have a 20 or a 1, but that
Can you
would be
imagine-
the extremes.
Can you imagine your character? You roll, you get 5 5s, and then like your last stat's like a 26, and you're like, I'm terrible at everything except for I'm super smart, or except for I have no dexterity, no charisma, but I'm a fucking genius, or like I'm a big old dummy who can't jump and do nothing else, but I can deadlift 1,000 pounds.
I tell you what, dude, that's one of that. I think it's cool if you have one stat that's just complete balls. So that way you incorporate that into
It
your character, and
depends.
it's just like you suck so bad at like athletics. You can't do
If you're-
anything.
if
I
you're
can't-
super
I
bad-
can't climb stuff. I can't do anything. I need
Yeah.
help, man.
if your super bad stat is not something that's outwardly facing. Like wisdom, I think is the one I think about the most.
Mhm.
Like wisdom, you can dump something into wisdom and just your character wouldn't really change. Thematically.
I think that like the most dump stat, unless you're a wizard, is int. Because
Yeah,
there's
that
very
too.
few int saves, and as far as int checks go, they generally aren't that important outside of maybe sometimes investigation.
Or if you're in a campaign where there's a lot of magic stuff and you need that Arcana.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
But
like,
if you're
like
you're playing a
wisdom saving
campaign,
throws, there's a ton of those, right? Everyone
yeah.
wants to have a decent wisdom because there's so many wisdom saving throws. A lot of strength saves to not like
I don't know about that.
tons of dex saves.
Tons of dex saves.
Yeah, so wisdom and dex are the primary saves. So you don't
We
want
all
to you don't want to be trash at those. Any kind of RP, you don't want to be trash at charisma.
No. That's not true. My no charisma character has been absolutely
I feel
a
like
blast.
that needs to be an asterisk because these people will only talk to you because of your race.
I know, but it's been so much fun because I'm like, yeah, you seem like a nice enough guy. Yeah.
I trust everyone, and I get screwed.
I'm not reading into this at all, dude. Like, and he told me to roll that charisma check, and I was like, yee.
Here we go.
All right.
A -2 in charisma. Oh, man.
That is a strong case for having either like standard array or point buy, is that you're going to have at least one stat that is -1, right?
As much as I
Which
I think is I like that.
You like that?
I'd rather have one that's really crappy and one that's really good than to have everything be kind of in the middle. If everything's in the middle, you're not good at anything.
Yeah, but you're kind of good at everything.
I like when characters have a flaw. It makes it more interesting, especially because in my campaign, I let you guys, which I like the way that this works, as I let you roll your stats, 2 sets, and then take whichever of those sets you want, and like everyone just rolled amazing. So like no one has I think there's one -1 out of the 6 of you.
Yeah, I will say I rolled stupid good. I already have 2 20s.
The plus side of that is I think that feats are incredibly fun. But whenever you use the standard array or something, when you get to those ASIs, it feels bad not to like at least try to max out your main stats.
Yeah.
But whenever you roll and you have decent, good enough stats for a couple things, you're like, okay, I can afford to take some cool feats and make my character mechanically fun.
So like with rolling the stats, that's how I prefer to do it. But as far as like
roll 4, reroll 1s, and drop the lowest.
As far that's how I like to do it. As far as the ASI thing goes, like very rarely it seems, is taking a feat worth more than like bumping one of your stats to 20.
Exactly, which is why I do prefer rolling stats, because they tend to be a little higher, so that you can take those feats and they're fun. But because if your scores are already high enough, then you don't need to take those ASIs to justify your damage or whatever.
See, like I personally like a character who has one good stat and kind of medium, like at least a 10 and everything else. That's how I would prefer my character to be. But like, as much as I prefer that, I've never had a character that had ultra low stats, because I've only rolled really, really terrible stats like one time, and I was like, I just told the DM was like, ho, you got terrible stats, and I was like, yeah, so I either am gonna re-roll this or I'm not playing this character. I gave them the ultimatum because I was like, I'm not playing a character who has a -1 in everything.
Oof.
And
that would be not so fun.
But the flip side of that is
how fun would it be to just be the dumbest, like worst?
Yeah,
hi guys, I'm the drain on the party. Don't hate me, kid.
You're like you make your guy like the most positive person ever, so he's like upbeat.
I thought about a fun. The only fun thing I thought about with that is like if you had really terrible stats, you go that full luck build I've talked about, where you take like the lucky feat and you're a gnome, and like
that does sound interesting.
And you're bad, but you do good because you have so much luck. That sounds like an interesting interesting character build. But the flip side to the super low stats is I had a campaign. That campaign I left. I had a character whose stats were honestly unreal. We rolled stats in person. I did not have a single stat below 18. I was a freak of nature. But I built the whole character around a concept that I wanted to do, and then we were never outside. So that concept didn't work. And then you know what I became? I became the guy who was good at everything. Oh, we walk into a room. There's an ancient mural on the wall with a dead language in it. Does anyone roll a check? I go, what language is that? He goes, it's this. It's been dead for 1,000 years. It's like, okay, yeah, I speak that. And also, let me make a history check. And I roll, and I'm like, all right, 35 on my history check. And it's like, I couldn't walk into any room anywhere in the world and not be able to read everything and tell you exactly what was happening. We could walk into a dungeon where it's like, there's a mural on the wall of a dead god. No one's seen him for 10,000 years, and this is ancient stuff. And I roll a history check, and I'm like, so, yeah, I do know what that is. And that's bad, too, because that character was incredibly boring. Incredibly boring.
So, for me, the sort of pro cons here are when you do point buy or standard array, you get that cool, especially at low levels, you get that cool, I'm not great at things yet. I'm a low level character. Not all my stats are good.
Yeah.
I have at least one that's -1.
Uh-huh. Standard array
So you
is
get
better
that-
for building the character. Like if someone says we're taking standard array, I can know right away what I can achieve.
Yeah. So if you do that, you get that sort of, I think you get that sort of flawed character that's, I think, interesting, especially, like I said, at lower levels.
Yeah.
But that makes it to where you almost, if you want to be like good at your thing that you do, like combat wise, you have to take the ability score improvements over feats.
Yeah.
And I think that feats add so much to the game that I hate taking the ASI unless I've already got, generally any character I make, I'm like, this would be really good with, 1 or 2 feats. That would make it really cool.
Yeah.
So that's where the rolling your stats sort of comes in, because you generally tend to roll, especially whenever for my campaign where I gave you advantage basically on which array you wanted. You rolled 2, took the better, or took the one you wanted. So then you don't have to take the ASIs, and you can sort of save up those level 4, level 8s for feats, which I think are fun. My compromise, which is what I'm going to pitch to Michael,
okay,
is since we did the basically a point buy at level 4 when we get our first ASI, I think, and I may do this for my next campaign, is just at level 4 you get an ASI and a feat, but you can't put more than 2 into any one stat. Like you can't take a half feat that gives you a +1 in something and then put +2 into that same thing.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you guys think about that?
I've thought about. I like that. I enjoy that. I've played in a campaign where we got all of the ability score improvements plus the feats, and it does help. Like having the feats really can help with character design and things like that.
I think you could decouple feats from ASI. Just put them somewhere else. Just like.
I think it would be cool if you use feats as like a downtime. I'm going to start practicing this, and over the course of a few sessions and stuff, you build up a skill, and then you can get certain feats.
Yeah, or like a.
Or like the toughness feat. I'm working out in my off time. I work out all the time. That's what my character does. He's just sitting there and
I do those workouts where people punch me.
Yeah.
I lift weights while people punch me in the stomach. Yeah, that could be a way to
how much downtime you have. It, may or may not fit in time wise.
Right.
Yeah, because like getting some of those feats, and sometimes feats don't do anything. Like I took the grappler feat in your campaign, and I've used it once. Because like I took it thinking I'm gonna grapple, it would be really cool, but very rarely does a situation arise where like it would be better for me to grapple this person than to punch them.
I think that's going to come into play more often when there are things you are fighting that have a larger pool of hit points, right? Things
Yeah,
that
maybe.
aren't dead after one round.
Or
Because
like
it doesn't feel good whenever you're like, I grappled it, and then it's dead the next one. Like, why did I even need to do that?
Yep.
But later on, when you're fighting stuff with a ton of hit points,
yeah,
being
sure,
able
it'll
to
be better.
give advantage to everyone is going to be a bigger deal.
Yeah, and it also doesn't feel good when there's a lot of enemies. Like if there's 5 guys, there's no point in grappling one.
Yeah, it's going to be situational for sure. But I think that there are. I'm going to make an effort to make that the thing that feels good at least every now and then.
Occasionally. Like I grappled. What was the last thing I grappled and pinned?
You didn't. I don't think
A
you
monkey.
pinned anything. You grappled
Yeah.
Monka Prime. Yeah.
I grappled Monka Prime. I pinned the pixie.
Oh, that's right. You did.
Yeah.
I pinned it. In my
I
hand.
grabbed it and held it in my hand real tight. Yeah. I grappled the pixie or pinned the pixie. But then it died in one round because pixies only have like 10 HP.
Yeah, but you gave advantage to the people who were trying to hit it, which had a high AC, so it worked out a little bit.
I held up my hand and looked away because I don't want him to hit my hand.
Don't hit me.
Hit this without hitting my hand.
I'm gonna hold it real still for you.
Yeah.
Choke up on that hammer, please.
What feats are like? Are there any feats that are actually like super amazingly good? That's the thing too. Like you could decouple.
Tough is a really good one, especially if you're a fighter or a barbarian. Yeah, it gives you like +2 to your health every time you level up, and for previous levels. So whenever you take it, whenever I took it, like I was like level 16 or 17 in Michael's campaign,
Yes.
so I got like
34 health.
I got a ton of hit points that level.
I
mean, lucky is always a good feat for anyone.
Yeah.
Are feats optional? Feats are an optional rule, aren't they?
Yep, they are.
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
I think is, I wouldn't. Well,
nobody doesn't use them.
I don't want to say never, but I wouldn't really want to play in the campaigns like no feats.
No
they're
feats
they're like the most fun thing to do when you're leveling up.
I was trying to look up on. I was going to RPG Bot so I could see character optimization. This is what I'm looking for. Feats, baby.
I tell you, that's a really nice thing about playing Warlock is the Eldritch Invocations are kind of along those lines, and they're cool. Really cool.
Yeah,
Eldritch Invocations are cool. Yeah,
similar to meta magic options. Very cool.
Yep.
Little things you can do that you get a choice on.
Meta magic stuff is really cool.
Yep. I think Trog has like all the good ones now.
Oh, really?
Because he took that feat that gave him more.
Yeah.
So he just has like all the good ones.
Do you think it's more fun to build characters starting at level 1, or if you're able to start at like level 3, maybe 5?
That's a good question. I think that it depends on. I think for story based, it's more fun to start at a lower level. For mechanical base, obviously, I think it's more fun to start at a higher level.
Right.
I think story wise, sometimes it is more fun to be like at least level 3 because
that's true. I mean, story wise, I guess you could be anywhere depending on how the story goes.
Yeah, but being level 3 is like I at least know what I'm doing,
and I have my
I have my main thing. Like this character is this, and I have my archetype, and I can do what I need to do. Right. Sometimes at level 1, it can feel like you're just a dude, and that's fine.
For Michael's campaign, I had a character story that I liked, and then he's like, "We're starting at level 1," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I had to think a minute and be like, "Well, how did he get to where I was writing him?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So, and then I wrote that bit, and that was my backstory.
Yeah. It is harder to write a compelling backstory when your character has done nothing. Let me write this compelling backstory about my character. Okay, what have they done? Well, I worked in like the equivalent of fantasy McDonald's for 5 years, and then.
Well, it's about the relationships, right? It's like when you're especially for low level characters, when the story that I think that you want to write is not one of this is, dig me, these are my accomplishments, but more of this is where I am. These are the people that I know. I am going to try this other thing and see how it works out, and
Yeah.
then how it's going to interact with the people that I used to know.
Yeah, that could be an interesting way to do it. Or if you have another player who's willing to have like a combined backstory,
Yeah,
that can
those could
work
be
at a low
interesting.
levels. But like, or like my Warforged in Friday's campaign is like doesn't the backstory on that was fine because I was essentially off for a long time, right? And then I come back and I don't remember all the things that I did.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier to write a decently compelling backstory that also, doesn't make me look like a total like, oh, look, you've been alive for 10,000 years, but you don't know how to do anything. Great.
Yeah, that's a tough thing too. Whenever you start at level 1, it's hard to be like, my guy isn't 16.
Yeah.
He's not a young person. He's like, and that's what with Sarah, and I was like, okay, I want to make an old man. How do I make it to where it makes sense that he hasn't done anything?
Yeah. Like,
in
oh, I'm
50
55
years.
and I haven't done anything with my life, dude. I'm a farmer. I've been farming my whole life, and one day I decided I don't want to farm no more.
Yeah, I mean, you can, especially if you're low level, but like an older race, like older within your race's timeline, you can sort of write that in as your proficiencies, right? As opposed to, yeah, I've never gotten a lot of fights, but I know how to do these things, and those are the things you're proficient in.
Yeah, I mean,
So you can
like
do that.
if you were like, I've been crafting boots my whole life, but
I've been working on firearms,
my
so I'm
whole
good
life.
at Tinker's tools.
Yeah, well, that's kind of my character.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I find that a hard sell. That's a hard sell for me. It is easier to start at level 3.
I don't know. I
Because
mean,
level 1 and 2
I've
is
only
brutal.
had the limited experience, so I can't. The level 1 that I have started, I think is good, but it worked out for me.
Another big thing that helps with level 3 is with story development. It's like, okay, I trained with all these people, so these are the people I know. These are the people.
Yeah.
Instead of like Eric was saying, I'm a farmer now. I'm ready to go.
I'm ready to go, dude.
I picked up my sword.
I'm tired of tilling the fields. I want to till my till into someone's face. Is what I want to do.
I feel like every backstory, which it has become somewhat of a trope, but it's kind of necessary for an adventurer to have some sort of event that made them change whatever they were doing, tilling the fields, to go
tilling the fields
to go to be an adventurer. So that's kind of how I view a backstory. Is what event happened to make me leave what I was doing.
Yeah.
I will say that as far as like starting level and stuff, I find it easier to have a more complete view of at least a direction my character is going if I know about what level we're going to at least like try to be getting to in the campaign.
Yeah.
Which is tough because I know, I mean, our D&D groups have been very good about like playing the entire campaign out to its finale.
Yeah.
But I know that there are a lot of groups that stop after like a few sessions or just don't complete for whatever reasons. And those are a bummer because you don't know how, like, you could be like, I'm making this character, and once it gets to X level, man, it's going to pay off so hard. And then if you never get there, ooh.
That's why I, you guys are talking about how OP my sorcerer was in that campaign.
Yeah.
But a long time ago, I learned, don't even read the level 20 stuff because it's going to hype you up and you're never going to get to it. I've had tons of campaigns that finished that we did fight the big bad boss, right? But we weren't level 20, so it didn't even matter.
I've only been level 20 once.
I've only been level 20 like once or twice.
I mean, I feel like 20 is a high expectation. I feel like most campaigns, like I'll tell you guys with my campaign, I anticipate you guys getting to, I think it was like 13 to 15, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I mean, that obviously any of that could change, but that's what I envision.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that way, I don't know if I think that I told you guys that before we started. I don't remember for sure, but that way you can sort of have a plan as to what you want your character to be mechanically? Because especially with like multi-classing and stuff, it's very hard to gauge if you want to make those sacrifices if you're not going to get to the point where you're going to get the payback.
Yeah, I don't like to multi-class unless we're starting at a higher level. Like some multi-classes are cool and sound really cool, but starting at level 1, it's really brutal.
And that's like Friday night campaign. No way will I ever do that.
I'm not.
The only reason why I did it
multi-classing.
in the other one is because I knew I could get away with just 3 levels of barbarian, and
I think
taking barbarian with fighter, even just 1 level doesn't really affect.
Yeah. So I think there is only one official D&D campaign, like the ones you buy, that go to 20, and that's Waterdeep.
Waterdeep, yeah. Is it Mad Mage, or is that?
Yeah, Dungeon of the Mad Mage runs from level 5 to level 20. So that's a pretty long campaign. I've never read the book, but
another one that did that. But yeah, there's very few.
Yeah, I'm trying to like find the other ones. That's the one I can seem to find.
What was it? Feels like there was another one. Maybe it was well, I can't remember it. Never mind. I can't remember. Was it what does Strahd go to?
Strahd goes to, I can
like
look
15?
it up, but I think it's like 15. I didn't like Strahd, and I might have just, I don't know why I didn't like it.
I'm almost certain that it's because of the way it was played with you guys, because every review ever written about it is like, Strahd is amazing.
I remember playing Strahd and just being like,
Ugh.
the whole time being like, man, this isn't that fun. And then we got to the big fight, and it just unceremoniously ended. And then we get to escape from like cursed Strahd land, and then like the final closing scene is, but Strahd's not actually dead, and it's like,
Spoilers.
okay, yeah,
Spoiler alert. Sorry.
Spoiler if you haven't played Strahd. The big ending fight is really super fucking lame, and all you do is fight him, beat him. He's easy to beat. We beat him in like 3 rounds.
Okay. This is a separate topic, but I think we've covered, most of the character creation stuff that I wanted to cover. But since you mentioned that, I do want to branch off and talk about monster difficulty. It has been my experience that, obviously everyone knows that CR is pretty worthless. You have to use it because it ties in with some rules, but the difficulty that monsters are is largely dependent on the tactics that the DM uses with them.
Yeah, it's that, but it's also like, so I don't know how you handle it, but in every time I've DM'd bigger campaigns, the monsters don't have a health pool. I don't have a health pool for the monsters. I ignore the health pool that they have on the sheet, and I give them health dependent on how I want the fight to go. That's how I handle it. So if I want a fight to be a big fight that's going to be drawn out and it feels close and like, oh man, that was a tough fight, it's about health. It's about hit points. For me, it always feels that way, because if I go, and here's the Giga Dragon, and they go, okay, we're all level 17, we deal 500 damage in 1 round, and it's like, okay, so Giga Dragon's already almost dead. He's gonna blow some fire at you because that's his best thing. Oh, that didn't. Okay. Oh, that only did like less than half of your hit points because you all have over 100. Oh, okay. And then next round, Giga Dragon dead.
Yeah, the hit points handling is definitely a thing that I have had to adjust, especially having like 6 players. Because if you don't, everything's just going to be, if your monster gets a lower initiative, it doesn't get to go. But yeah, basically the hit point pool adjustment is, how many rounds do I want this to be?
Yep.
How many actions do I want my monster to have to show off its things and potentially make my players feel like it's dangerous?
How much do I want to beat up my characters with this character?
It's not even that. It's just like, how important is this monster?
Oh yeah,
How
if it's
dangerous
nothing,
is this monster?
if it's nothing and it's like, oh, it's just going to show up and you got a little fight, I'll just use the hit points. But if it's
Yeah.
like, if it's a big boss, I want it to be a cool fight that you barely make. And
Oh yeah,
you can
definitely.
force that. You can force that in a totally natural way. And I have flubbed, I hide dice rolls so that I can totally can lie about the dice roll. Because if I roll 6 ones in a row, it's not an exciting, compelling fight. You just curb stomp this like I am the galactic evil, and you miss 5 times in a row, and he just gets absolutely shafted. It's like, okay, then if this is the big bad, why was everyone afraid of him? Like, you get done fighting him, and you're like high fiving your buddies, and you're like, all right, guys, I don't know why like Billy down at the tavern didn't come up here and just kick this guy in the nuts. He would have fallen over and died because he can't hit nothing.
The
So
big thing
like,
with that though is like whenever you get to those giga fights, like the big bad, it needs to roll a 2 to hit anyone in the party.
Yeah.
Like
true, but I ran a campaign for you, Joe, you and all your friends, and a couple other people over at your house. You remember that?
Yep.
That was like one of the first ones you guys did. You don't even know how many
Mhm.
times I lied about hitting in that campaign, or lied about missing when you guys were in a fight where I thought it was going to be an easy fight, but you guys are getting curb stomped by this enemy that I've put out there, and I'm like, dang, what's your AC? Oh, it's a 16. I missed, dude. And like, that's fine too, because I didn't want to kill you guys.
Yep.
I don't want to
I-
kill the players at all times.
Yeah, and like I have started to do more of the roles openly in my campaigns. I still do some, especially ones that I just want to quickly look at and not have to like go and click a bunch of stuff before I roll. I do have a D20 ready for rolling some things, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that my experience DMing has gotten me better at balancing fights, and I had to restart at the beginning of the campaign because I was ready balancing you guys for like level 13, 15 stuff, and then we started over and at level 3, and I almost killed Ray immediately. It's like, ooh, I gotta
Pull
I
back
gotta
on
remember.
this a little.
So yeah, but
Some of your monsters
my
are pretty
balancing is
brutal.
getting better.
Some of your monsters are kind of brutal, like the fights, and this isn't you. This is just an every D&D campaign kind of thing, where like you have one fight and you blast through it easy, even though it looked like it was going to be hard, and then the next fight, guy walks up and he goes, "All right, he's going to hit you 5 times, and every time it's doing 13 damage," and it's like, what? How do you expect me to do anything to this?
Yeah,
that was like the troll. Every time you hit it, it does 15 damage back to you.
Yeah, and it's like we just got lucky on that fight. I would have died.
We got Ray, man, clutch
On that
damage.
fireball. But see, that's the thing. Spells can be super clutch and super awesome, and it's harder to do that with the non-spell characters.
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of the balance, though, right? Like if you have capable players in doing those different roles in combat, you're like, okay, I can open this up a little more to more difficulty, and they're still going to be okay, and it's going to feel more epic.
Big final fight against the boss in our long running Friday campaign that ended recently, and I was able to like banish one of the guys to another realm like at the last second.
Yeah,
and
that was because that was
super
you and
cool.
me both trying to banish people. And I made them get rid of like 2 or 3 of their legendary resistances.
Yeah,
and I was like,
huge.
Do it now!
No! And I like fly over there, touch him, banish him to another realm, and the fight ends, right? Like, That's cool. But I guess the flip side of that is I've also heard plenty of stories where like older editions, I don't think you can really do this in 5e, but like guy DM describes big bad floats in, ha ha ha, monologues, and then someone's like, all right, I cast power word death, and he rolls like a 1 and he's dead. Because it's just like it's a spell that is like 100 or 0. You do nothing or it kills them.
Yes,
you know,
I think that there is that spell still, but it's like depending on how much HP you have left.
Yeah, it
And
does.
also,
if you have over 100 HP, it does 100 damage if it hits. But if you have less than 100, it automatically kills you.
And also, any legendary creature is going to be able to use a legendary resistance and just be like, no,
Yeah.
he resists it.
I'm sure there was legendary resistance in 3.5, but I don't remember anyone using it.
Well, that's again, the difficulty of monsters largely depends on your DM's understanding of the battle tactics and mechanics of the monster.
Oh man,
Like
I typed in.
if you forget stuff, then they suddenly become a lot easier. Like even in our current campaign, you guys have fought a couple of things where I forgotten about a couple of mechanics, and at the end of the fight, I was like, "Ooh, that should have been a little bit harder because I forgot this thing." But it's fine. Well, we're moving on now.
Okay, so I was looking this up to see about if there was legendary resistance in 3.5,
Yeah.
and like I think I kind of agree with this guy, which is it's a forum post. Legendary resistances are unfun. The whole point of playing a caster is that you're always gambling with resources, but the ability of anything to automatically make it save removes the gamble entirely until those resistances are used up, which becomes the dominant pattern of battle, especially in boss fights at mid to high levels. It forces one to metagame and not use good spells until the resistances are gone, and diminishes a player's autonomy and decision making. That's how I feel about that kind of stuff as well.
I love legendary
I like
resistances.
them because it's and okay, as far as metagaming goes, there is always some level of metagaming going on.
Well, yeah,
Because-
you can't not. I don't think you can fully purge metagaming from your mind.
And honestly, you wouldn't want to. Like your adventurers know that because they go somewhere, something cool is going to happen.
Yeah,
Right. Otherwise, if you're like, you know what, I'm just going to chill here. Like you're always saying, I could retire now. Yes.
Yeah.
Without metagaming, anyone would just be like, yeah, I'm done.
All right, sick. I made like 10,000 gold. I don't have to do anything now.
So there's a
because that's
certain
an
level of
asset money.
metagaming that you have to have. Otherwise, your characters would grow complacent, right? Unless you are
Yeah.
hardcore into, I don't even care about the money. In which case, you're not. You don't have the money anyway.
Yeah.
So I feel like the metagaming aspect of legendary resistances is kind of fun because then you have to strategize around what low level spells can we use that he is willing to burn a resistance on. Right?
It becomes part of it, but it's also, yeah, I guess. But it's
Because
just
like I'm gonna fireball him. Okay, I'll eat that. I have plenty of hit points.
Yeah.
You're gonna polymorph me. That I might need to resist that if I fail it.
But
Or you're
depending on
gonna
the
hold
caster,
person on me. Yeah, that's a level 2 spell that is going to. If I fail it, you're absolutely. I'm gonna burn the legendary resistance on that.
depending on the caster, though, that can be just super detrimental, right? Like especially like a warlock that doesn't have a lot of spell slots.
I mean, by the time you're high level, you have some more spell slots.
Still don't have a lot.
Warlocks have 2 spell slots until they hit level 20 or something, like 20 or
Well,
17.
they get I think 3 spell slots at the highest level, but you also get other spells that just aren't considered spell slots.
That's
You
why
can still cast like a 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. You get essentially 1 spell slot for 6, 7, 8, and 9. I think.
I think that's why I've never liked warlocks. Like I like casters, but I don't like warlocks because
they are
other
tough.
than
That was the first character I played, and it was tough.
yeah, other than like a thematically cool thing, it's like
I
okay,
think it's really hard to be a warlock unless you're Pact to the Blade.
yeah, a warlock. If you're not Pact to the Blade, a warlock is a fighter that casts Eldritch Blast every round.
Yeah, and I gave you that Ring of Spell Storing early because I felt that pain. I was like,
Yeah,
have an extra spell slot, sir. I know it's
Thank you
rough.
so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like legendary resistances, especially in a large party like you guys are for my campaign, I think that they are fun to work around, rather than just because. And it's absolutely your big bad guy at the end of the game isn't going to be one shot by one spell from one person, right? That's boring. That is so boring. Like everyone shows up, all right, we're ready to do battle. I banish him. Oh, he's gone. GG guys, fun campaign.
It's not permanent. They come back.
It's not if you hold concentration on it for the full minute.
And they don't belong on this plane.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that could be explained away with if they're like
any other spell, right?
Yeah,
Anything
yeah.
that just gets rid of them. That's
that could be a temporary solution, right? Like you banish them. You banish the spell banish, they come back even if you hold concentration. If they're bound to the plane, they'll come back, all right?
If they're bound to that plane, yeah.
Yeah. So you have to use a spell like plane shift, which specifically states if you can hold your concentration the whole time, they have to find their own way back from wherever you place them.
Yeah, but same thing, right? Like one spell from one guy takes care of the problem that is against the world. The world needs these heroes to do this, and one guy goes up, casts one spell, and the fight's over.
That's a big thing with the cool thing with Legendary Resistances is where it adds to that, like, this is intense, this is a crazy fight, this means everything, because everything you're trying to do, this guy's blocking it, this guy's doing this, we can't get through. That's what makes it intense, and that's what draws it out. And that's where, if they didn't have those, you'd have a great big bad, and 4 rounds later, he's toast. And that's no fun.
I am a big advocate for homebrewing your important monsters, just for the fact that it's not as fun, because even if you're really good at holding, I don't want a metagame, even if you're really good at that, you're still going to know. You can't not know the vulnerabilities, like, oh, it's a beholder.
Yeah.
I know not to stand here. But if you homebrew something and your player's like, do I know what this is? And you're like, you don't know. And then when they actually don't know, I think that's exciting. Like, oh, I got to figure this out quick.
Yeah.
That's the cool part about DMing for people who've never played.
Yes, absolutely it is.
That is the best part, yeah.
Because it's less work.
It is. It is considerably less work if you don't have to worry about them, like, knowing every little thing to, like, throw you off.
Yeah, like when you guys fought the troll last night.
Yeah.
And Ray throws a fireball immediately. It's like that I'm not mad about that at all. That's totally fits his character. Because he was in his backstory, he was totally into like fire and stuff. It's like, that's fine. But I also am like, did he do that because he knew about regeneration?
I don't think he did.
I'm not sure if he did. Either way, like I said, it works out just fine. But that is the reason that I would never have just like a troll as my end guy, right? Like, oh, hit him with fire. This fight's easy now.
I do think that one was like a genuine, like, not know that.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think that was just like, I'm going to cast fireball because it does a lot of damage.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But that is an example of why I think that your important monsters should probably have a little bit of homebrew in them.
So homebrew the monsters, baby. Yeah. I get that. I totally get that. Man, we went on tangents, guys.
Yeah. But it was good.
Tangent city.
I was willing to talk about all those tangents we went on.
Well, let's see. How long have we been recording? I need to make... I actually don't know. It doesn't keep track.
Yep.
All right. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about?
I mean...
In relation to character creation?
In relation to character creation, I don't think so. I mean, I think I covered most of the bases I wanted to cover. Just like, how do you do it, like, from a story or mechanic perspective first?
Yeah.
And then do you try to marry those ideas? And like I said, I think that the most fun characters are the ones that both of those aspects are fulfilled.
Yeah.
When you're trying to decide between with classes and races, do you go, I'm going to pick this class, so I have to pick either this race, or this race, or do you go, I'm going to pick this race, so I have to pick either this class, or this class to go along with what pluses?
Oh, you're talking about min-maxing, like
I'm wondering what's your process on that?
For like choosing race based on what class I'm playing,
or vice versa.
Which way do you tend to?
Me personally, I'm trying to do it less. I tend to pick the race that best optimizes my character.
So with Tasha's makes that a lot easier, right? Because you can just your stats can go anywhere.
Yeah.
I will say that for the character in Michael's campaign, I came out with I had my story that I wanted to do and the class, because the story and the class sort of melded together. I was like, that's perfect. And then when I came to race, I did dip into what is mechanically fun. And then I finished out the story based on that race. So I was like, cool.
Human is never a bad choice. If you're building a character and you're thinking, what do I want to do? Human is never a bad choice. It is the best race in the game.
As long as your DM lets you use variant human.
Even without variant human, human's good.
It's vanilla if you aren't using the variant, though, right?
That's what I'm
'Cause it's
saying.
like, oh, +1 to everything. It's not
it's the
bad, but it's
best-
kind of boring.
It's the best all-arounder, right? It's
Yeah.
not like it doesn't excel at anything, but it's kind of good at everything.
Yeah, which is kind of boring. But if you can use the variant and you get a feat at level 1, then it becomes
it's way
incredibly
better.
fun. Yeah.
It's super cool.
The fun
And-
level goes from like 3 to 9.
But that's why I think that like there should be a variant for almost every race that allows a feat, because there's been plenty of times where I don't want to play a human, but I want a feat at level 1.
And you could probably work something out with your DM, especially now that Tasha's is out. But the downside of that is like you could have, I think that it would be fine to be like, I took the human stats, but I want my race to look like essentially an elf. It's
Yeah,
like, okay,
I want
you're an elf,
variant.
but you have human stats.
I want a variant human elf. I want a variant human Goliath. I want a variant human dwarf. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can just be like, okay, just pick human for like, especially if you're building it in something like D&D Beyond or Roll20. Pick human, and then everyone in the campaign will know you are an elf.
Not a human.
That way it's easier
Yeah.
for stats and stuff. But yeah,
For stats, yeah. That's how I approach that kind of thing usually.
yeah, I think that would be totally fine. Again, it's just like a reskinning, right?
Yep, just reskinning, rewording things. It's like playing with a group that will allow you to do that as well. Because
Yeah, and it's tough, especially with newer DMs. So like, don't have as much experience around balancing things. They don't want things to get too crazy, and please play within what I understand, so I can DM for you.
I don't know
the
how
more that you understand, I feel like the more you're able to open that up.
I don't know how common the scenario is where you have a group of 5 or 6 extremely experienced players and the DM is the only person who's never played. Like I find that situation that we were in, I think is a pretty unique situation.
I would imagine that it is, but I was like, I want to play D&D. I can't get in a campaign. Would you guys join me if I DM?
Yeah.
And you guys were like, sure. I was like, sweet, I'm going to play D&D. Let's do this.
You ended up joining our campaign anyways.
I know, but that was after. But yeah.
It
was because we started that before COVID, and then COVID hit, and you guys were like, well, we're doing this virtually now. Do you want to play? And I was like, yes, absolutely, I do.
Yeah. It is. I think getting play experience is good before you DM, as a general rule of thumb.
Yeah, the first handful of weeks were slow,
rough
for sure. Yeah,
it was
a learning curve. It was a learning curve.
I had to find my feet, but I feel like I found it in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
Steep learning curve if you're trying to do that. No. If you're doing that and nobody else knows how to play either, then it's a nice gradual
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you're playing with a bunch of people who play a lot,
you guys had all played for years, and I was like,
not all of us.
I just finished watching Critical Role.
Yeah, who all was in that original one? It was, me.
Everyone. It was just you, David. No, it was just you, Michael, Joe, and it was David. You, Michael, Joe. No. David wasn't there. It was you, Michael, Joe, Ray.
Oh, was David not there at the beginning?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Me, Michael.
David came in way later. Remember with his pirate rogue? His pirate hating rogue.
Yep, the elf.
Yeah, he met you guys in the Twin
Oh
Cities
yeah, and he always talked
around.
about how much he hated pirates.
Yep.
That's a common theme for him. Pick one
and
thing.
Then, and then Brian joined way later.
Yeah, Brian joined way later, like almost towards the end, right?
And kudos to him for working with me on his backstory. I was like, it's going to be tough to sort of fit you in at a part that makes sense and have you be like important at all. And this with the stuff that he gave me, I was able to work that in, and you guys like found him, and I thought it felt to me pretty seamless. I don't know how you guys felt about it.
It was totally fine.
It was really good.
Most character
was a little more
weird.
shoehorned in there, I feel like.
That was just like, he's following us. Oh, we found someone else.
Yeah. That was okay. I do remember that now. That was the weirdest character introduction I've ever experienced. Not bad, but just like insanely strange. Like we're walking through the jungle and this guy just follows us follows us and follows us. And from our perspective, it's like, we're gonna kill this guy.
Yeah, because I told him, I was like, you're gonna follow them on this boat because you saw them. I don't remember what it was. You saw them do this thing,
Yeah.
and you've been told that these guys can help you. You can follow them. And I was like, where do you want to approach them in the city? He's like, no, I'm gonna hide. And I was like, okay. And then you guys left, and he kept on following you. And I was like, eventually, I was like, okay, you guys notice this weirdo following you.
Yeah. That's such a weird way to like introduce a character, but I think that's more on the player than the situation, right?
I mean, I don't know. It's only happened twice, and basically the one time was David, and the one time was Brian. And I feel like Brian's was way better, and I don't know if that's because he put way more work into the story or not, but that's the way it turned out.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be weird to shoehorn a character in, especially really late into a campaign. Hello, people who have been adventuring together for possibly years and are fighting to destroy the evil that could destroy the universe. I know you just met me, but you should let me come with you. It's like, no, you should go down to the local like Mick Kids Club and find someone there you can adventure with for a little while. Then you can join the big leagues, my guy. Like,
Yeah,
we are the saviors.
That was I was kind of proud at the way that Brian and I got him into that campaign, in a manner that didn't feel shoehorned in, and also in a manner that was like, hey, this guy can actually help you.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It made him. It was able to make him an important character very, very
quickly.
Almost
immediately.
I was trying to get him in there so that because I knew that he'd never really played D&D before, but that he was interested in this, like the storytelling aspect of it. I was like, okay, here's the things this is why you might be valuable to these guys that you're going to meet. And he was like, okay, I'll read up on that, and I will have that ready. I was like, great.
Yeah, that's just a player doing the work to make that. That's like a good relationship between a player and a DM doing the work to make it.
Yeah, he wrote me a big backstory, and I was like, man, if you had been here at the beginning of the campaign, I could get a lot of this stuff in. But I mean, the world is already set, and a lot of this stuff is not going to fit. And he's like, that's no problem. Just tell me what I need to know. And I was like, okay, here's the parts that can fit. And then I ended up using the whole thing in the, I don't know if you guys remember this, but basically the world that you are in now, the campaign we're in now is where his character essentially grew up.
Oh, okay. We're in the past then, right?
It's not, no, it's different. It's just a different world.
Oh, okay. That is somehow connected to the other one. Gotcha.
Yeah, because he wrote like Nethalon. I don't know if you guys remember the city that you guys went there. That's where your I think it's where your buddy is. Your Goliath buddy is in Nethalon. But that was a city that was given to me by Brian from his first campaign backstory.
Gotcha. My brain doesn't work on stuff like that. My brain captures like cool moments, and the rest of it kind of like falls through the cracks over time. While I'm playing it, I can generally remember, but as soon as I'm done, I just like my brain shakes off all that dead weight and I forget it. It's obviously more pertinent to you because you're the one who wrote it and like had a lot of hand in creating it. But I don't know about Joe or anyone else, but like for me, the day the campaign's over, I only remember the highest high points, and everything else is just like falls out, dude.
I'm pretty good. I remember a lot of.
Yeah, but you're also like the god king of remembering movies and music, and like I've never met anyone who has a more encyclopedic knowledge of everything they've ever consumed. I am like.
That's why it's fun when me and Joe play Name That Tune. It's a competition.
Yeah.
I have to
crushed. I don't know what you're talking about.
There was a lot of stuff in my wheelhouse. I think once you got into your wheelhouse, I was like,
no, we did. I split it up. I was running that game.
Yeah.
I split it up between like stuff you would know and stuff you would know. But yeah, I have to like purge my memory so that I can have other things in my head.
Yeah, and I think that would be a good topic for next time is DMing.
You want to talk about DMing specifically? We've talked quite a bit, like sporadically about DMing.
Yeah.
If you want to do an episode about DMing,
we could start there.
We'll start there. See where it goes.
But there are a couple things I'd like to talk about.
So next week, DMing.
Next week, DMing, the topic.
We've all DM'd.
That's right.
At least once.
I've only done it twice, but
Well, Isaac's only done it twice too.
That's true.
I've only done 2 sessions and one wasn't Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
All right, well,
I've done a lot of sessions, that's for sure.
you've actually I've DM'd more campaigns than you, but I think your campaigns have gone longer than most of the ones I've done over the years.
I had, what was it, 60 sessions in campaign?
I had a really
we did
I had a
we
really big gap where I didn't DM anything for a really long time.
we did the little I did a practice one before we started recording, which was the Dragon of Icespire Peak, which you guys
Yeah.
did
Mhm.
to sort of get my feet wet. And then we did campaign 1, which was 56 sessions.
Okay, yeah. So realistically, you're probably have DM'd about the same amount as me, because I DM'd a ton when I was before I started playing in that Sunday group. Then when I got into the Sunday group, I didn't DM for like 5 or 6 years because we just didn't do one shots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was never the one DMing. And then I DM'd a little bit in the middle, in between that and like us starting the first Friday campaign. And then I've DM'd a couple of one shots since then. Honestly, that one shot that I did with you guys recently was the first time I've DM'd anything in like 3 years.
I enjoyed that.
The runaway.
Yeah, part of I mean, it would have been good either way, but part of a lot of the fun for me was the video game mechanics of it, where we had to be zoomed in and you could only see what you could see.
Yeah. Keeping it all like under wraps in a way that like actually
That
keeps
fun.
you confused. Yeah. That was just an interesting mechanic thing that I wanted to try more than anything.
Yeah. So,
but anyways,
we did,
next week. Go
around
ahead.
80 sessions total.
Yeah, you've probably got as much as me at this point. You've just done it all in a shorter time span.
It's very concentrated.
I'm 30. I'm
Comparatively.
30. I turned 30 this year. I've been playing D&D since I was 15. So, like, I've
You've
DM'd
been playing for half of your life.
I've been playing for half of my life now. Exactly half my life. I DM'd a lot, 15 to like 23, 22, somewhere in that range. I think that's right when I joined the group, and then I didn't DM anymore after that. But anyways, next week, DMing stories. I've already burned through I've burned through some of the best DMing stories, but
you got more, I believe.
I'm sure I've got some more in the tank. A lot of them include people we play with right now, because I've played with Michael for like 8 or 9 years. I think I started playing when I was 21. So 9 years, yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot of D&D with that guy. Anyways, next week, DMing. Thanks for listening. If you have any suggestions or anything, you can always leave a review and ask for a topic or something like that. I'll eventually set up a Discord server or an email or something where you guys can contact, and
you can always
tell me what you want to listen to.
You can always go put comments on the YouTube video.
Yeah. It's on YouTube now. It wasn't before, but it is now. YouTube.com/Rules, Jewels, and D&D Schools.
Is that it? You got your own domain?
I think so.
I don't think YouTube lets you do that unless you're like cool.
Unless you're cool. You used to be able to do that.
Because Deft and Dorky doesn't have one.
Does it not?
No. It's like some weird mishmash.
Tell you what. Let me check real quick before we end. I might just buy the domain and redirect.
Yeah, YouTube.com/Deft and Dorky leads nowhere, because they had stopped letting you do that by then. By the time I got that set up.
Ooh, my old YouTube channel was like that.
Yeah, my original one, my KZAC Gaming one, did have it. I don't know if it still does, but yeah, it did have its own domain, subdomain.
But anyway, dude, I can get rulesjewels.schools.
Rulesjewels.schools.
I think I can get that. Oh no, never mind. Sorry, it was an ad. I can't actually get that. That would be amazing. .schools domain.
rules jewels and D&D.schools.
Yeah, in D&D.schools. I'll figure it out. By next week, I'll have some way to easily access the YouTube channel where you can leave comments and suggestions and things like that.
There you go.
All right, awesome.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone who listens. You guys are all my fucking favorite people. You're all super awesome. See you later.
See ya.
Bye.